Welcome to Untold Pleasure, the Cancer, Sex and Intimacy podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Cheryl.
And we will be taking you on a pleasure-focused journey where we aim to end the shame, stigma and silence around cancer, sex and intimacy.
In today's episode, we're going to be looking at cancer, sex and intimacy through the perspective of Black women and people of colour. I felt like it was important to create a safe space where we could discuss racial bias in the healthcare system, but also some of the cultural and community-specific problems that can arise around cancer, sex and intimacy. So I'm really excited about my next two guests today. So welcome to Carmel, welcome to Dee. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have an intimate conversation about our lived experiences and hopefully help some listeners to feel less alone. I felt this space was really needed. We need to discuss the cultural racial bias, if and where it exists, the taboos in our culture, you know what some of those are, and anything basically that can affect you as a woman in the community affected by cancer. But before we get into this, I'd like to welcome Dee and Carmel. So, Dee, if we could start with you, can you give us an overview of your cancer journey?
So I was 28 when I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed back in 2019. I had a grade 3 breast cancer. It was triple positive breast cancer.
Okay.
I had chemo, I had radiotherapy, and I had a lumpectomy at the end. So everything took about a year and a half. Yeah, so it was quite a long, grueling journey. However, I am on the other side now and there's like no evidence of disease still. So
that's excellent. That's really good to hear. What would you say it was like navigating the healthcare system as a Black woman? Were there any particular challenges or anything that you felt should have been better or could have been better?
I mean, for me personally, I think I didn't really face much problems until I had radiotherapy. So I developed some burns. Well, at the time, they didn't know that it was burns. It looked like blisters that were just pussing. And they hadn't seen anything like it. And obviously, I tried to look on Google as well to try and see what these things were. And I didn't have any answers. And I believe that it was because of my skin tone as to why I couldn't figure out what it was. So I had like the healthcare photographers take pictures of the blisters. And then it was later found out that it was actually radiotherapy burns, but they hadn't seen those types of burns on darker skin before.
Right.
So I mean, in 2023, it's a bit crazy here, you know, but I think that was one of the things that were quite shocking to me.
So with the fact that it's 2023, as you say, and they'd not picked that up before, have they now decided to kind of bookmark you as the first person or to have you as a comparative person to look at if somebody else comes in with similar symptoms? Have they said anything?
I think that's why they took the pictures to use as a reference point for next time.
Excellent. Okay.
Which I think is good.
Do you have any advice for listeners around advocating for yourself in the healthcare system?
Yeah, I would definitely say, I mean, you can only advocate for yourself. You're the best advocate at the end of the day. So if it's a thing where the doctors aren't taking you seriously, I would recommend getting it in writing. Write it down and tell me that you're not going to do what I want you to do. And then we can go from there. 9 times out of 10, they retract from what they were saying previously. Yeah, write it down. Write it down on a piece of paper. Tell me that you're not going to take me seriously so that we have something to come back to. God forbid if something does happen, you know?
And you've tried this?
I've tried that before, yeah. And it's worked.
That's good advice, that. Yeah.
Really good advice. I've never thought of doing something like that.
Yeah. Sadly, a lot of my friends have had situations whereby they haven't been taken seriously by the healthcare professionals. And just hearing their stories, it's opened my eyes and made me think of other ways. And I know that probably might sound aggressive, but we have to be aggressive. You know, we have to fight for ourselves, because if we don't do it, who's going to do it for us?
Wow. And is this solely because you think it's maybe down to racial bias in the healthcare system, or is it a mixture of things?
I think it's a mixture of things. I think it boils down to several things. Age being one of them. I mean, there are a lot of younger people who are presenting with breast cancer, especially.
Okay.
And when it comes to going to the GPs and things like that, it's like, oh, you're too young to have it. It's not the norm to see a young person come forward with breast cancer.
Okay.
So I think there's that. I think there's a load of things. There's a load.
Okay. How do you think cancer impacted your sex and intimate life? Did it change you in any way?
Yeah, prior, I think I was very open and quite free. And then I had the breast cancer, which just closed me off. And I think, one, it was just due to the body changes and just the effects that the chemo had on me as well. I had very bad dryness.
When you say dryness,
vaginal
about?
dryness.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would be very dry and it would just be so uncomfortable. So even like trying to be intimate or anything of the sort just put me off.
Okay.
You know, and I think for me, sex was just the furthest thing from my mind at the time. I was just in survival mode. So yeah, it wasn't really something that was at the forefront of my mind.
So when it did come sort of like closer to your mind, obviously you said you were on a path of survival. Did you speak to any of the healthcare professionals about the vaginal dryness?
I didn't.
But I'm guessing no one asked you, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't want to say it's embarrassing, but I kind of felt embarrassed to come forward with it. And again, because I wasn't asked, I never thought, you know, I could maybe go to the oncologist team and even ask them. So.
You didn't think it was a thing?
No.
Okay. Did you raise it with any of your friends, family? No one?
I mean, the partner who I was having sex with at the time, he would make like comments, oh, you're so dry. You're really dry down there. And obviously that just, it doesn't help, does it?
No,
you know?
That's not what you need.
Yeah. And I think hearing that, it kind of put me down. I'd say. Yeah.
Okay. So where would you say that you're at now? Because obviously you said you've been on that survival journey. Your journey continues. You're still here.
Yeah.
Where would you say you're at now? And what does your future look like?
I think right now I've had to come to terms with how I look physically. For me, I think it's a journey of just loving myself and getting that freedom back again. Because obviously cancer stole a lot and I don't want it to continue stealing things from me.
Absolutely
I'm
not.
kind of clawing back my femininity, all that stuff. I'm just trying to claim it back.
Excellent. So a new Dee.
Yeah.
New Dee.
Physically, mentally, sexually, everything. Yeah.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. Thank you so much for that, Dee. So I'm just going to ask Carmel exactly the same questions. So Carmel, over to you. Could you give us an overview of your cancer journey?
Yeah, sure. I was diagnosed at the age of 48 in 2019. I'd been presenting with pain in my breasts, probably from the autumn of that year. But initially people were saying, oh, you know, I wouldn't worry too much because, you know, anything serious isn't usually painful. Yeah.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing. And even somebody who had rung her breast care nurse, somebody that she knew who had worked in London, and she said, no, it's probably nothing to worry about, but see how you go. And at the time, my daughter was poorly as well. So my health wasn't really the top of my list.
Okay.
But in the January of that year, I did get fast-tracked from my doctors because there was a lump presenting then. And then it turned out I had stage 2, grade 3 invasive lobular cancer, which I knew nothing about. You know, up until I got breast cancer, I thought, you just got breast cancer. I thought it was a one-size-fits-all. And it turned out that I actually had 2 tumours, one which was over 10 centimetres and was really fast growing. So within 3 weeks of being told I was having a total mastectomy arranged for that side. And I wanted it gone. I wanted the tumour gone, the
Yes.
cancer gone. And I did ask my surgeon at the time about removing the other breast, and categorically told, no, we don't do that. You're a young woman, you need breasts, is what she said to me.
Okay.
Wow. I mean, you can't find more triggering than that.
Yeah.
No, you're a young woman, you need breasts.
Wow.
What does that even mean?
My world was spinning at that time. So I just kind of thought, right, okay, I'm going to get through this and we'll deal with stuff on the other side. And I had the total mastectomy, then I had chemotherapy, I had 6 rounds, and I had radiotherapy, and I'm still on adjuvant therapy now.
Okay.
And I did, after some toing and froing, managed to find a consultant in 2022 that removed the remaining breast. I put myself a case forward, self-advocated, and yes, managed, after seeing 2 consultants, to finally have the other breast removed, and I'm living happily flat with no evidence of disease.
Well done. Well done. How was it at the time navigating the healthcare system as a Black woman? And do you think there was anything that they could have done better?
I didn't feel seen, and I certainly didn't feel heard.
Okay.
I think I was dismissed by my initial surgeon, who was very much of the opinion, surely you want breasts. She even offered reconstruction at a later date than my surgery had been granted. Although she did say at the time, of course, your cancer is fast growing.
Wow.
Yeah. And I understood, I wanted it removed, but I didn't feel that anybody was really taking this need to have the other breast removed. The psychological damage, and this, I was so uncomfortable. And I didn't really think about that being larger breasted. The prosthetic I was offered wasn't the right colour. It was
sorry, what colour was it?
It was just white Caucasian skin colour. And when I went for my fitting in a room where there were floor to ceiling, there was a floor to ceiling cupboard full of prosthetics, there were none for a woman of colour, none. And I was shown a catalogue with a colour chart and told I could pick one, but it would take time to arrive.
Shocking.
And looking back now, I think I just wanted to get through my treatment. I didn't want any of this to be happening. And
of course,
I don't want to rock a boat. Now I feel totally different. And I think I would have, taken the magazine out of my hand and told her where to put it and run the company myself. And I think that has changed. I think that made it change. I've been quite vocal about that.
But it's shocking. 2019 is not even that long ago. It's like
barely 4 years ago.
Yeah. And I don't live in the middle of nowhere. I live in Bournemouth. It's a pretty multicultural town, but I wasn't really aware of my colour going through. I, again, very naively, didn't even think that my colour would come into it at all. But there were several occasions where, I was aware of my colour, being the only woman of colour there.
So with that in mind, do you have any advice for listeners around advocating for themselves, especially, as you say, being presented with a prosthesis that is a completely different colour from your skin and, how you're supposed to basically live with that?
Yeah, and I think there is an old narrative, well, no one sees it, so it doesn't matter. But it does matter.
Of course.
And I would say research. There are some wonderful companies out there now offering lots of different shades, lots of different shapes. Go online, get informed, and if you haven't got the energy, use a friend. I had a couple of close friends that I didn't really use at the time, but have since been great allies. And, it's really important. Know your tribe. And information is key. Knowledge is power, definitely. And there are plenty of groups now that will support that kind of information.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So we're going to touch on the subject of how cancer impacts sex and intimacy. Did it change your intimate life? And did it change you as a person?
Yeah, my marriage broke down through my treatment as well. So in 2019, I was married. Now in 2023, I'm divorced. And I think cancer shows you who you are and who other people are as well. But also, like Dee was saying, you go through that treatment and you're just going from one step to the next, like energy levels were low. I just came out of that with no fight left in with me. And my marriage had broken down as well.
Yeah.
So by the time I'd sort of come out the other side of it, I had no sex drive, no libido. I was in a body that I wasn't comfortable in initially, in a big scar. I had no problem looking at my scar. The problem I had was how uncomfortable I was with the other side and not feeling seen or heard.
Yeah.
I had absolutely no sex drive at all and couldn't even imagine feeling sexual again or imagining myself with someone else. I barely get to know this body myself, let alone somebody else see it. So, yeah. And that was kind of when I found you guys online. Yeah, which was great. Because again, nobody asked me about that. Nobody asked me about how it affected my marriage or my relationship or, all the while my marriage was breaking down. I was single. I was becoming a shell of a person.
So basically, the first time someone touched on cancer, sex and intimacy was when you came across our project?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, finding you on Instagram.
It always shocks us that healthcare professionals aren't asked. I know they don't, but it's just shocking, isn't it?
And with breast cancer, breasts fundamentally form part of intimacy for some people.
Yeah.
And to know that it's not been mentioned, discussed, or that's shocking.
At no point, none of the nurses, nobody asked me about how I felt physically, sexually.
It is shocking.
That's shocking, but thank you so much for sharing that bit. But where would you say you're at now? What does your future look like, Carmel?
It looks fabulous and sexy.
Amazing.
But
The
strangest thing is, because I'd had a total hysterectomy about 10 years before I was diagnosed.
Okay.
And I've got a big scar. I've now got a huge scar that goes across my chest. And yet I've never felt more at peace with my body. Honestly, I feel
That's amazing.
Complete, happy. I've got no breasts. I've got no womb. All the things society tells you make you sexy. And what I've realised is it's such a state of mind. It's where you are in your head. And I've done a lot of work the last year on body image, body confidence, advocating for myself.
Excellent.
And I can honestly say, I think there's going to be a slightly weird conversation with my next partner when he realises I'm not just flat-chested. I don't have breasts at all. But, that's a him problem, not a me problem.
If you feel confident to bring all parts of yourself to a new partner and they respond positively, that's the green flag you want. And anyone else, not worth your time.
No. So, I'm feeling pretty good.
Good.
Pretty good indeed.
That's really good to hear.
Lovely. Well, that was such an interesting conversation to listen to there. And Dee, if you want to unmute yourself. I know we've got both of you on Zoom today and me and Cheryl in the studio. But let's come together and have a bit of a longer chat.
So, ladies, one of my key topics is around the cultural taboo and the feelings of sort of sex and shame and that stigma. And we know that in the cancer community and outside of it, family, friends, you don't talk about cancer and you definitely don't talk about sex. You keep your business to yourself, that old taboo. How do you navigate it? Now that you're feeling a lot more open in your journeys, how do you navigate getting rid of that stigma and that silence and that shame?
Rebel.
I like that.
Literally, that's what I've been doing, because like in the Black community, there's just so many taboos. You can't do this.
Yep.
You can't do that. Da, 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 da. Like, please drop me out and let me live my life, okay? So I rebel.
I like that. I like that. What about you, Carmel?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, this is who I am now. My time and my energy are so precious and I'm not going to filter myself. And those people that are meant to be here still around, those not, they fall away with love. And I really feel like that. I like Dee, I'm quite happy to speak out, be my truest self. I feel like, I I didn't survive just to be a watered down version. This is the, Carmel 2.0.
Oh.
And yeah,
I
take
like
it
this
or leave it,
energy.
baby. Yeah.
I like that. It sounds very much like me. I mean, I've always been a person that doesn't give a damn what you think anyway. But I think it's intensified now on my own journey. I really don't care. I really don't care. If I want to talk about sex, I'll talk about sex. If you don't want to hear me talk about sex, then don't listen. I'm not asking you to listen. I'm not going to your house and preaching to you. I am talking about it in my own safe space for other people that want to talk about it. You know, you've got that autonomy to switch on or to switch off.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what about things like, I mean, I've seen a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding around cancer and how it works. How do you deal with that in the community? It can be difficult.
Yeah. I think for me, especially in the beginning, I had a lot of like people just send me loads of information, you know, like eat this, don't eat this, do this, don't do this. And it just got to a point where it was overwhelming. And similar to what Carmel was saying earlier, I think you just have to know what your tolerance is in terms of like what you can and can't take, and just kind of setting boundaries. So for instance, if someone is sending solicited advice, you've got the option to not open it or respond. Like there's an option there to not, you know. It can be a bit hard sometimes because in our community, our people are very pushy.
Very pushy.
Even
we
just
love them, but they're demanding.
And just a simple conversation of like, can you not do this or send this, can escalate and cause a thing. So I understand it can be difficult, but at the end of the day, the people who will love you and who care about you will understand without taking offense.
Very true. What about you, Carmel?
Yeah, I always say thank you because I think a lot of it is done with a lot of love and kindness, but I also have become very diplomatic, and, you know, what works for one person might not work for somebody else. Well, we all work very differently. Our bodies are very different. Even with the same cancers, you know, we've all got different tolerances as well. So somebody might want to juice for 3 weeks on wheatgrass and, you know, strip themselves down, and it's not for me. And so I do have to say, I'm really glad that you found that really helpful. But for me, I'm just going to do this my way. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Somebody will see, you know, Dr. So-and-so says, if you drink this or you do this, it can all go too far the other way. And I truly believe in balance. Balance is key. I don't think one thing or any particular thing will change this. Cancer doesn't give a fuck what you're eating or you're doing, or sorry, pardon my language, but
no, use the language.
I know people that were kind of vegans, never drank, never smoked, got cancer.
Exactly.
You know, this thing doesn't give a flying. So just know yourself, do what feels right, be intuitive. I don't think those gut instincts are wrong most of the time. We're all still here. They've got us this far.
That's it. I think I experienced the same thing at the beginning. Do this, do that. I didn't ask for the advice. Like Dee said, it was unsolicited. And I thought, okay, I'll be polite. And then it got to the point where I had to say something. Sometimes it was as blunt as, if that really worked and everyone heard about it, they'd put it in a pill and sell it. And they'd definitely start in the NHS. So, you know, please stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
Respectfully,
stop. Yeah. If it works for you and you want to do it, I'm never going to judge you and say don't do it because it works for you. But don't tell me what to do because this is my journey and I'm living it. And you're asking me to take a chance with my life and I'm not prepared to do it. I've had to be quite firm so no one approaches me with that anymore. I think they kind of know that Cheryl is not going to... she's not going to...
I think they see that look in your eye.
And they just know she's not going to do it. She's a waste of time. So if we move on from misinformation and look at body types and the expectations in the community. So obviously we've got stereotypes as well where, you know, as Black women or women in the community, big bottoms, big hips, big breasts. It's often obviously celebrated and admired, but when we go through a cancer diagnosis, as you said, that journey, things change. So how would you say that have you pitched yourself towards that or away from it and just doing your own thing?
I mean, for me, it's absolutely doing my own thing. I am unashamedly flat. I actually went topless
Good.
on the beach this summer for the first time.
Oh,
Yes.
Just
amazing.
because I think we need representing. I come from a long line of big-titted women. I mean, my aunts, my great aunts on both sides of my family, large-breasted, very voluptuous, very curvy. And that's the narrative we've all been sold about being womanly and curvy. And actually, you can still feel very, I've got imaginary curves. And they're
Nice.
still there, and I can still shape what I haven't got. I can jiggle them all about in my mind. And it's a mental thing. So I am really passionate about, because you don't see that much representation, especially women of colour who are unashamedly living flat. And it feels really important for me to kind of be visible. And if you don't like it, then no.
Well, this
Simple
is
as
it.
that.
This is it. How about you, Dee?
Yeah, similar to Carmel, except I'm not flat-chested, but I just think there's so many like beauty standards, like you said, and it's just like, give it a rest. We're in a world where there's so many different shapes, sizes, looks. So why are we defined by one?
Yeah.
So I live my life unapologetically. It has taken me a while to get to where I am today, just because with my lumpectomy, they took some of the tissue out. So it left me with significantly different sized breasts.
Okay.
That I used to hate looking at the mirror. And, certain tops, you're wearing certain tops and you can physically see that the sizes are different as well. So it took a very long time to come to terms with it. But now I'm just like, it's another opportunity to live my life. And I have to live it unapologetically me.
That's
you
true.
know? So, yeah. F the beauty standards. Like,
Yeah. I think that needs to be
agree.
shouted from the hills, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, Carmel, I'm still shocked about like what your surgeon said. So it's like even healthcare professionals are bringing these assumptions and stereotypes to the table. And it's like, how do you navigate that when these are the people you're meant to trust?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's almost incomprehensible that somebody wouldn't want breasts. That's that's how I felt.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want breasts?
Yeah.
It's still deemed as cosmetic surgery. When we know breast enhancements or breast enlargements, they're cosmetic surgery as well. So I don't get where the standard is.
It's such a strange assumption.
Yeah, one surgeon even tried saying, well, you want this done, but I can't guarantee that it'll look the same as the other side.
Yeah,
And I
I've,
said,
I've been told that as well.
But I said, but if I had a reconstruction, can you tell me you'd make them look the same then? At which point, that's the point he backed out the door and gave me another surgeon's number.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's shocking.
So
isn't
it's just flippantly said, basically.
Yeah.
Let's move over to something else that affects us greatly. So it could be a medical menopause or naturally occurring. Has this affected your sex and intimacy and dating? Let's start with Dee.
Yeah, I had the medically induced menopause, and that was just hell. It was awful. So I had the vaginal dryness, itchiness, hot sweats. It was awful. And obviously being young as well, it's like, how do you even navigate this sort of thing? And when I did go to them and I told them like, I'm experiencing these things in regards to the menopause, it was like, oh, it will pass.
What?
Oh, gosh.
But then at the same time, it was Google that actually told me that you can permanently like have the menopause.
Yes.
Thankfully for me, my periods actually started to come back. They came back.
Okay.
Probably, I think within maybe 3 months after finishing chemo. So I was lucky in that department, but the hot sweats and things didn't stop as soon as my period came, which is a bit funny as well. And I didn't know that could happen, like still having the symptoms, even though my period had come back.
So no one spoke to you about it?
they gave me like booklets.
Mm.
But then, like no one actually spoke to me about it. When you're diagnosed, they go in depth about the diagnosis and stuff. I knew I could get the menopause, but no one went into detail as to what it even means, what the symptoms are, none of that.
Yeah, I mean, what shocks me is like you brought it up and said like, I'm having these side effects. So did they not even say, well, there are these lubes you could try or vaginal moisturizers? Like, did they give you any sort of support like that?
My doctors weren't really helpful. They were quite dismissive, but the oncology recommended to get some lubes and stuff, but they didn't help, I'll be honest with you.
Right, yeah.
If anything, I think it made it worse.
That's interesting. But that's it, though, because there's so many lubes you can try. But if no one is supporting you through that journey of navigating what lube works for you, then what can you do?
Because there are some fantastic lubes out there that will do the opposite of what happened to you. But if no one's following up to see how you got on, how will you know that you need to change it? And it's not the fact that it's a lube. That lube wasn't working for you, but there are other options.
Yeah. I think the whole thing is just, I don't know if it's awkward for the healthcare professionals. I don't know what it is, but there's an awkwardness around it.
Yeah.
Even for patients as well. I think just because it's not spoken about, we don't know that we can go and even approach them with this because it's never been asked to us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a massive gap and awkwardness regarding intimacy and sex within cancer.
Carmel, well, how do you say you navigated that side of things?
Oh my goodness, that's been and still continues to be something I'm navigating because I'd had a total hysterectomy about 8 years before I was diagnosed with the cancer. After feeling really, really down and rotten, I was eventually plucked up the courage to chat to my doctor and did go on HRT, which just got my life back together. It was all going really great until cancer came along with being HR positive and pulled the rug from under me. Now, the drugs I'm on give me very similar symptoms to the menopause, and I can't take HRT because of my cancer being responsive to it. So I am learning to kind of manage symptoms myself, really. I do yoga. I do lots of holistic practices, which really kind of manage and help the symptoms. They're not going to go away. They're not going to go away because now I can't have the HRT. Nobody has spoke to me about alternatives, or I know that there are just kind of advocating for myself, looking at digging around there. We're starting to be at a point where there are HRT becoming available, hopefully in the next few years, that are not based on hormones that we may be able to take. But at the moment, I'm in a large group of women who are managing symptoms on a daily basis, and that can't change because of our cancer.
Wow.
I think that's the shame of it, is it's like, all right, this can't change, but it's just such a shame there aren't specific clinics for, I mean, menopause in general, but especially for the cancer community, because so many people can't take the HRT. So there needs to be that specialist support for when you can't do that. Then
what do you do?
What do you do?
I know for myself, there seems to be another cultural taboo around the menopause in Black women. I mean, I've spoken to many women, and some have actually given me the absolute shutdown, pushback, as if to say, leave me alone, I don't want to talk about it. Why are you talking about it? Stop talking about it. And I just think, is this happening in the cancer community as well? People afraid to talk about the menopause? Is there something connected to it that they don't want to identify with?
I know sort of my cousins of a similar age, we do chat quite openly. But it's not something that I've discussed with my aunties. I don't feel that I couldn't. It's just not something that I've discussed with them. But I don't feel like there is a specific place to go to talk about, which is probably another thing that's needed.
Similar to Carmel, I don't think I wouldn't be able to, but just the conversation has never really come about.
Okay.
And I suppose being younger, a lot of your peers or friends, they're not necessarily going to be going through menopause.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why cancer communities are so important, because that's where you get the sort of similar lived experience.
So maybe we need to start talking about that. I mean, there are groups that are running that can support you. And especially as a Black woman living with cancer and the menopause at the same time. But, they're quite niche, they're quite new, but they're out there. So if we move on from the menopause and sort of look at confidence and the loss of confidence, how we get it back and how we feel sexy again in the privacy of your own home, how do you get that sexy confidence back?
Definitely a bit of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I like to do mirror talks.
Okay.
Yeah, mirror talks. So I would look at myself in the mirror and just be like, wow, you are amazing. Like, do you know how beautiful you are? I never used to do this, by the way. Sometimes I just catch myself and be like, oh, girl. Yeah, mirror talks. Mirror talks.
I like that one.
I like that. I'm going to have to try a mirror talk.
Yeah, try
Sarah.
it. It's actually, it's the vibe. It's the vibe.
I love it. I'm going to try that tonight.
Try it and let me know.
We'll report back.
Oh, gosh. So if we're talking about confidence, and obviously with confidence, you can then empower yourself. How would you say that your empowerment within the healthcare and therapy setting as a person of colour has been aided by you being that confident person? So what have you done?
I think for me, coming out the other end, feeling really lost and really rather small, it was finding, I have to say, Black Women Rising were the first group that I found. And I think growing through the sisterhood, that's where I found my voice.
Excellent.
Find your tribe, find your sisters, because you might not be strong enough when you first come out. And that's grown. My journey kind of evolved. I found Black Women Rising, there's been Me to You, Sex, Cancer, Intimacy, Breast Advocate. There are so many groups, but find your tribe, because I think that's where your power lies. I think there is real strength in sisterhood.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dee?
Yeah, similar to Carmel. I think for me, Black Women Rising was one of the first groups that I came across. And through reading and seeing other women's stories, it gave me the confidence to also share my story as well for the younger lot. Because coming from someone that's had breast cancer, I didn't know that you could be so young. And I think sharing my story is very vital and important within the young community, especially just to get it out there. So I would definitely say that the groups have helped to empower me and to give me the strength that sometimes I couldn't find within myself.
Excellent. I know for myself, because I found Black Women Rising in their earlier formative years. So in late 2019, I think they started at the beginning 2019 or the end of 2018. And I wasn't sure if it was for me, but I met Leanne Pero, who's the founder, at a different organisation. And I spoke to her. I decided to go along with one of my relatives who also has cancer. And from there, I just found that my strength, my ability to be confident, everything started to return. And all the things I thought that were missing, all the things that I thought were silenced, or they were silenced in the community, I could now speak about freely, safely, without thinking, oh my gosh, what's that person going to think about me? Can I really say that? I just didn't give a damn. It gave you that space, that autonomy to feel safe. And then when I met Sarah through the project, that was at the end of 2019, funny enough, at the same time.
Yeah.
And she knew about Black Women Rising, and I was like, hey! It's just so nice to feel normal. Something is part of something. And then when you go to Black Women Rising, it's not anything oppressive. And then you see so many allies and people that understand you, Black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter. It is amazing. It's an amazing space to kind of regain who you are. It really is.
And also, it's amazing. Like the play last year that Black Women Rising did, that was phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
The chance to see that was just wonderful. But it's been a journey, the building of Black Women Rising and the obstacles and things, that have been placed there. It's been
a challenge, but it's been, I would say, really remarkable. Something that we really needed. So I'm glad that space is there. Dee, you look like you want to say something. Come in.
No, I'm just thinking about everything in regards to like Black Women Rising, it is an amazing thing that they do. You feel heard. You feel heard
Yes.
and seen.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us Black women, we don't feel heard and we don't feel seen. And to have that space where you can just be yourself and speak freely, it's just nice. It's refreshing. It's nice. Anytime I'm with the group, I always feel so empowered and just lighter.
Yeah, that silence is no longer there, because I know there are still sort of bits of my, I would say, my private life where I still can't navigate certain conversations because either somebody doesn't want to hear it or it's sensitive to them, for whatever reason. But I know that if I go on a support group Zoom, or if I go to the coffee morning or to the evenings that they now do at Future Dreams House, I can just let down my hair. But most of all, the fact that I can speak to Sarah and Sarah identifies and absolutely understands where I'm coming from, it's just so nice. I don't need to over-explain anything. It's just natural. So it's a beautiful space to possess.
And I think that's, with the Cancer, Sex and Intimacy project, it's given a space for everyone to put the value back into that side of yourself, like sex and intimacy. If that's what you want, it's a fundamental part of being human. So it's wonderful to have this discussion today.
Absolutely.
Passing the dildo.
Give us the ear. So if we pass the dildo on too. Oh, Carmel, I love that laughter.
I wish people at home could see on screen. Cheryl is waving a dildo.
How big is it?
It's well, we were told by it's an average, I would say. Well, whatever average means, but it's not huge. It's a nice, non-threatening size. It's orange. It's sparkly. So, Dee, tell us, what is your kind of favourite way to create intimacy that's not necessarily sexual, or what you might think sexual is?
One of my love languages is physical touch. So I touch myself a lot. A lot of the time as well, when I'm stressed, I find it calms me down, and it just makes my problems go away. So touching myself, it did take a long time. You can't rush it, you have to take time with yourself and have grace with yourself as well.
I like that.
I like that too.
Always pass the dildo.
Thank you for taking that dildo.
I guess for me, it's that just real self-care, taking time. I have to say, can't be the only one that No Diggity is a track that will get me bumping and grinding. I love that track. But a good jig around the room to some, sexy, funky music or a bit of Prince
Nice.
that'd get me in the mood.
Oh, that's lovely.
Cheryl, I'm going to pass you the dildo. You've been enjoying this dildo
I
far
love
too
the
much.
dildo.
You've now got to answer the question.
I love creaming my body. So I come out of the shower, dry myself. I'm very particular. I pat myself rather than rub. And then I use a mixture of Palmer's cocoa butter oil, and I mix it with some Sanctuary cream, rub it together, and I don't care if I'm running late. From head to foot, between my toes, my back, my bottom, my tummy. And the way I massage my tummy is if there's somebody standing behind me, intimately massaging my tummy. And I do that because that's the area where I've got that big scar from between my breast down to my knicker line. So for me, it's really important to connect in that way. And I play with my tummy, basically, and massage it with those oils and those creams every day.
That's
Love
beautiful. I love that.
What about you, Sarah?
Oh, my turn to take the dildo. I'm going to say actually that my favourite movie of all time is Interview with the Vampire. I'm a bit of a goth girl from the teenage era. I love putting on my favourite sensual movie, just enjoying it, watching it solo, and just being with myself and something that I know I'm going to love, I know I'm going to enjoy, and just have that moment. Normally watch it at night, fall asleep thinking about my fantasy vampires.
Ow.
Oh.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, Dee, Carmel, we've come to the end of our episode, but I really want to congratulate you for ending that silence, that stigma, that shame. We threw it to one side and you've come out and you've just said what you need to say. And that's good because I think from here, other people will be encouraged to speak up as well. And
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get a bit more conversations going in the cancer community. But thank you so much for sharing your journeys. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure having you. And Sarah, as always, you're a wonderful ally. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks,
Ladies, it's a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
So, Cheryl, tell me why this episode is so important for you today.
Well, for me, living as a Black woman with cancer, living with it was so important to tackle some of the taboos that are in the cancer community amongst us as Black women. You can feel very silenced, very sort of stigmatized, and have that element of shame. Not because someone said something specific to you, but it's like an unspoken cultural taboo you just grow up with, where you just do not, as they say in the West Indies, talk about your business. Keep your business to yourself. So that means you don't share with anyone. Your sister, your mother, your best friend, whatever, you just keep it. It's a done thing. You live with it, and that's it. But I think our generation is finding a new way to combat that silence, that stigma and that shame and saying, no, 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 no. It might have been okay for you. It's not okay for us. We need to speak up. So things like cancer, a lot of people call it the big C, where they don't say the word. That's got to go. The menopause, stop screaming at people when people are trying to help you. They're not trying to dictate to you, but support you. If I know something and it might help you, I might just say, I did this, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying you do it, but that silence around the menopause. And as you know, you've got the medical induced menopause as well in cancer. So it's really important that people are aware of what to expect. And then obviously you've got sex. That's another thing. Don't speak about it. There's no sex education at home. Let's be real. It doesn't really happen for a lot of people. So you as an adult navigating the world of cancer, and then you've got maybe sexual issues, there are sexual dysfunctions that happen as a result of cancer or cancer treatment, and then you're silenced. It's even worse. So there are 3 areas of absolute silence that people expect you to just navigate, just get on with it, keep it to yourself, but be normal, if there is something called normal.
It's a lot of pressure, you know.
It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. So, I'm here to shake up the ground. I don't really care who gets upset, to be honest, because I'm not speaking about something that we shouldn't speak about. I'm saying in my community, we need to be a bit more open. We need to stop pretending these things don't exist because they are there.
Yeah. And how has it been kind of finding that community? Because I know you've been with Black Women Rising since, is it about 2019?
2019.
Yeah. So how has that been kind of finding a group of like-minded people that want to have these conversations and want to make the experience of having cancer as a Black person or a woman of colour? How has that been?
It's been absolutely amazing. It's been an eye-opener. At first, it was a little bit scary because you're navigating a space you're not used to. You're not used to having that space to divulge things. You're so used to, in the back of your mind, if you say, I went through this, you're thinking, oh my God, should I say that? Because it might get back to that person that I said that, and then I'll be in trouble with my parents. And it's just so tricky to navigate. But now that I've decided that cannot be part of my journey or my healing, I put it to one side and I do what I need to do. Without offending anyone, I do what I need to do. If it's right for an individual at a certain point in their journey, let them be, leave them alone. It's not right for everyone. Obviously, we mindfully respect that because people are terminally ill, people are diagnosed very late, and it's not always appropriate. But where it is, where we have quality or we're supposed to have better quality of life, sex and intimacy is part of it.
And we know that healthcare professionals really, they're just not geared up for asking the questions. Do you think this is particularly the case for if a Black woman or a woman of colour comes into the consulting room? Do you think healthcare professionals might have an even sort of greater sense of not wanting to ask the question?
I'm not sure if it's that they don't want to ask the question. I think in general, they might present with a problem around sex and intimacy and not wanting, either feeling A, embarrassed, or B, not sure where to signpost the person. But, there could be a racial element to it. I could never say
It's
for
hard to
sure.
say, but-
You just don't know. So we have to take it that it's either the A route that I just explained or the B. They're either shy or they don't know where to signpost. But I would say to any healthcare professional out there, anyone that's listening, please, as we said in our short 3-minute film in phase 1 of our project, please just ask the question.
And what could that question look like if we're really going to put our healthcare professionals on the spot? I mean, I know for me, I think it's just a simple question of like, it's sexual health at the end of the day. It's like, how is this treatment affecting your libido? Are you experiencing vaginal dryness?
Basic questions. And, I think this is where our booklet, Pleasure and Intimacy, that we created and designed, patient-led, this is where I think the booklet could speak for itself and speak to the healthcare professional to say, this is what's wrong with me. I need your advice. Where do I go? Where do I get the support? So, our booklet, I think, is a really good pointer to bring into the actual consulting room and say, turn to page 5. That's what I need to discuss at some point. Or email them.
In advance,
in advance of your appointment, so they know that they need to be prepared to signpost you.
And I think even vice versa, if any healthcare professionals are listening, get in contact with us on the Cancer, Sex and Intimacy Project. Get those booklets into your clinic. And if you know, or actually don't even assume, anyone who has a cancer diagnosis, just slide the booklet on the table and say, take this away, have a read. If any of this resonates with you, we can talk about this at the next clinic appointment.
It's a fantastic point. A really good point, Sarah. That booklet needs to be out there. We mustn't make, that's another thing. We need to stop making assumptions about where people are on their journey and what they want to talk about. Because from the information we have coming through to us, there are a lot of people that are not opening up to healthcare professionals. They're sitting there in silence.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, don't make any assumptions about the person you have in front of you in that room, whatever their age, race, gender, cancer type. Don't assume that that person doesn't want to have their sex and sexuality and sexual experience understood and supported within that medical context.
They really do. They really do. So please, if you need a booklet, reach out to us on cancerandintimacy@gmail.com. Alternatively, on Instagram, on sex_cancer_intimacy.
Yeah, slide into our DMs.
Absolutely.
And next week, we are going to be joined by 2 wonderful guests that will help myself and Cheryl talk about all things dating and relationships. We hope you can join us, and thank you for listening today.
You've been listening to Untold Pleasure,
the Cancer, Sex and Intimacy podcast. Please like, rate and review this podcast because that is the best way that we can get this far and wide to the cancer community.
Please also follow us on Instagram at sex_cancer_intimacy or drop us an email on cancerandintimacy@gmail.com.
And keep passing that dildo.